tortured to such an extent that the fat of his body was visible on his body. That's how much they tortured him. It was in this context that he asked Rasulullah to curse the Meccans who were persecuting the Muslims. He was frustrated. Rasulullah did not. Instead, he reassured Khabbab his vision of peace and justice prevailing in Arabia. That an old lady laden with gold and treasures and jewelry will be able to travel from one corner of Arabia to the other corner without any fear. Without any fear of bandits and looters and robbers. That's the society that Rasulullah was envisioning. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He buried Khabbab in the year 37 after Hijrah. This is during the reign of Amir al-Mu'mineen's Khilafah. And he said on his grave, may Allah have mercy on Khabbab. He accepted Islam willingly, migrated obediently, lived as a mujahid, and was tested in his life with suffering. What else would you want? You and I, we face a little bit of suffering, we face a little bit of trouble, we face a little bit of, opposition sometimes, and we start complaining left and right. And so this is how we learn from the lives of ordinary people. They were companions, they were ordinary people. They weren't ma'soom, they didn't have ismat of taharat like Rasulullah and Ahl-e-Bait. Therefore, we can learn from these examples. Another is the torture of Yasir and Sumayya, parents of Ammar. That Quraysh dragged them into a scorching desert. They were beaten, whipped, tied, and left under the burning sun. They were tortured to force them to renounce Islam. To go ahead and renounce Islam. I had narrated a story last night as well in the lecture as well, for those of you who were here as well. That forced conversion. In certain scenarios, it's okay for you to go ahead and save your life. This is the moment for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the concept of dissimulation. That if your life is in danger and someone is forcefully converting you and you're able to save your life by falsely saying, yes, okay, sure, I believe in what you're saying, you can use that. But these examples tell you that even in such dire situations, because this was the foundation of Islam was being laid at that time, these people did not give in with all the torture. To renounce Islam, to renounce Rasulullah, they would pass by them and they would say, Sabran, Sabran ya ala Yasir, Sabran ya ala Yasir, fa'inna maw'idakum Sabran, patience, oh, the children of Yasir. Why? Fa'inna maw'idakum your promise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made is Jannah, this paradise. As the Prophet delivered his farewell sermon, during only pilgrimage that he had performed, he asked the audience, did I fulfill my prophetic mission? Look at the humbleness in Kalam of Rasulullah. Then he said, إِنَّكُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ عَنِّي فَمَاذَا أَنْتُمْ قَائِلُونَ فَقَالُوا نَشْهَدُ أَنَّكَ قَدْ بَلَّغْتَ وَأَدَّيْتَ وَنَصَحْتَ. That indeed, he said, you will be asked about me. What will you say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What did I do to you? They said, we bear witness that you conveyed, you fulfilled, and you advised. He raised his finger to the sky and said, oh Allah, bear witness. Oh Allah, bear witness. Oh Allah, bear witness that I conveyed the message that you have sent me to fulfill. That prophetic mission, that oriented life, that purposeful life that Rasulullah was there to go ahead and teach us, are we able to uphold that or not? Sallu ala Muhammad wa alayhi.
Allahumma salli ala.
And Rasulullah said, well, I'm leaving, that's it, I'm done with it. I'm leaving, but you need to carry on. You need to continue. The fact that Rasulullah is no longer amongst you does not mean in qalabtum ala aqabikum. Ayat al-Quran said, afa in mata aw qutila. If Rasulullah was to die or was killed, in qalabtum ala aqabikum, you return back to your heels. Back the good old days of Jahiliyyah. They'll go back to that. That is the mission God has asked Muslims to carry out as well. That is the mission that the Prophet spoke of in his last sermon as well, reminding us that when he left this world, that we need to live a purposeful, mission-oriented life and work to establish justice, fairness, and equity. Now when we see in the world so much injustice and lack of fairness, that is happening. Double standards that exist. Certain things are permissible for certain people and others are not permitted to have that. Laws that are made, a big discussion on freedom of speech And now all of a sudden it's scrutinized. That freedom of speech, is it correct? To what are the boundaries of that freedom of speech? We've always said that. When we were crying and we were saying that people would go out and make fun of the religion that is followed by 2 billion people and the holy figures of that religion, when Prophet was depicted, and there was an outrage in the Muslim Ummah, non-Muslims were saying, take a chill pill, what's wrong? No, don't worry about it, it's okay. They didn't mean it, it's a joke, it's freedom of speech. The big freedom of speech. And speeches were given at that time. And now all of a sudden, if someone jokes around, makes a joke, and takes a smack at someone in political figure, right away, freedom of speech comes into play 1 second. No. Well, First Amendment rights. All those things are now under debate. There was never absolute freedom of speech. Yes, you have ability to express your opinion, but there's never absolute. We're not absolutists, right? That's what we always discuss. And therefore, we see we're far from that. The most, the governments in the world, the most highly anticipated, the advanced governments in the world, even they have not been able to fully execute justice and equity in their nation. And that is something which is, of course, a point, litmus test for all of us, that we are part of such societies. How do we uphold that fairness and that establish that justice and equity? So, if you would like to live a purposeful life, now of course we see that what's happening around us may not be in line with justice and equity and fairness. But you and I still would strive at a personal level to live a life which is based on these principles, a purposeful life. Better than an animal life. Let's go back to that beginning of our discussion. Adopt a God-given mission to establish a just and peaceful society as your personal mission. This commitment does not require anyone to abandon this world. So this is very difficult. If we were to go out and do this, then we'll have to, people are cutting corners. They're trying to get to things by, bypassing certain limits and taking shortcuts. No, that's not how it's living a purposeful, mission-oriented life. It does involve struggle. It involves sacrifice. But again, who said Jannah is free, right? You need to work hard to attain that maqam in Jannah. So I'll leave you with 4 mission statements, inshallah, to conclude our discussion. Number 1, we were created to know and we were created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quran says what? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Now, we speak so much about ibadat, and the core of everything that our belief system rests upon is ibadat. Why? Ibadat is not just this form of salat and so on. Ibadat is a code of conduct for us, a way of life for us. It has servitude in it. It balances your life. It's got all of these hidden messages within it. Therefore, first and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ not إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا لِيَشْكُرُونَ. There's something else though. He said إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create insan and jinn except that they may worship me. So that's number 1. Of course, Allah can be said over there. Number 2, life is a test. Our choices shape our eternal destiny. Quran explains that life is not random or meaningless. There's a purpose behind life and death. وَالَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Number 3, humans were created to build, improve, and uplift the earth. This is ayat of Quran. We're not passive beings. Allah calls humans to be khulafa, caretakers and the builders of earth. It says in Surah Hud, verse number 61, وَهُوَ أَنْشَأَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُمْ فِيهَا. He produced you from the earth and made you responsible to develop it, utilize it, use it. And number 4, a purposeful life includes service to others. You can't go wrong there. That's why Quran always says, أَقِمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. That service to others. True believers uplift humanity. They don't just worry about themselves. That's why our deen is not a deen of individualism. It's a deen of congregation. We perform all of these ibadat. They develop a different color when it's done in congregation. يُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They give preference to others over themselves, even when they are in need of those things by themselves. So we realize the fact that how important there's a purpose behind our creation. There was a maqsad of sending the Anbiya. And while so many things are happening in our surrounding, still we should not move away from the core values. And therefore, if these are followed, inshallah, you and I, individually, as well as bringing our community together to live that purposeful life, that mission-oriented life that has been promised in Quran.